Hello and welcome to yet another episode at You Are Human, a show attempting to decode human potential and possibilities by bringing you real stories, real heroes. Today with me, you see there's another person, which is not always the case. And you guys are also aware that Rising Up Arabia and You Are Human have collaborated to bring you some transformational journeys. Rising Up Arabia is a wellness platform that does the same. And today with me is none other than the founder of Rising Up Arabia, Shaznan. Say hello to everyone, Shaznan.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with Jagruti on that series and to bring amazing guests.
Yes, we are really excited. And in our today's episode, we have an artist, author, healer. He is also recognized in the holistic health and metaphysics field as an inspiring facilitator, teacher, and therapist. He is none other than the Ernesto Ortiz. I added the D because I'm really excited to hear all that you have to say. Hello and welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, ladies, for this invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you and with your listeners as well, your viewers.
Thank you so much. And I know it's like morning time where you are. We are actually shuffling between two time zones, and I think that's the beauty of what COVID gave us. We all started using the digital space technology even more to make the best out of whatever we could. And I'm so grateful that sitting in two different countries, two different continents rather, and in two different time zones, we are here having this conversation. So thanks to technology, I want to say that for all those who worked behind it. I want to begin, we want to begin asking you the first question, and that is that you have invested over 25 years of your life,
If I may, I want to interrupt you just a little bit.
All right.
And I will ask you to do something with me before we start this interview. Okay,
right.
That's okay. Mm-hmm. And
Yes,
I'll just take 1 minute of your time. And that is, if you don't mind, let's do a little mini centering meditation.
Oh, yes.
So I will ask you and everyone that is going to view this video to follow us for a moment. And if you don't mind, please close your eyes for a moment and then take a nice deep long breath. And as you exhale, let go all of the conversations that you have had this morning, today, and with your next breath, bring the totality of your attention into your heart. And it is from this heart space that we're going to share this interview, words, wisdom that may, with all the intention, help everyone that is going to come across this interview. We remain in the space of the heart. And with each breath that we take and every subsequent breath that we take, we allow the totality of our attention to be centered in our heart. And it's out of this heart space that is my deep desire that this interview will be for everyone's highest good. Thank you.
It couldn't be better than that as a
Yes,
start.
this is the best start we could ever have. And I think a lot of us try to seek this very intention. And I think that's the purpose of the soul, to have this very intention in everything that we do, isn't it?
That's it. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Now you were asking me your first question, but I forgot what it was.
That's okay. Even I'm going to take a few more breaths in order to ask you the question, because I just feel like it was just so beautiful. Thank you so much for doing this very little mindfulness exercise with us, because it just centers. It did center me. So thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So the first question is that you have actually been working for the last 25 years, and you've invested 25 years of your life in taking people on a journey from the chaos of all the chattering of the ego mind to, that is called the blessed emptiness of stillness and inner peace. And I think the activity that we did just 2 minutes back that you initiated, that was also a way to get the chaos out and be still, be centered. So I think that was just, a practicality of how you do it, maybe just a very teeny, meeny portion of it. But what we want to ask you is that in all these years that you have practiced it, you've been teaching it, there would still be times when you would find yourself in chaos and in times that need self checks. How do you deal with, these situations? What is it that you do? I know you've been teaching it to people, you've been transforming people, but we're all at the end of it human beings, and we still find ourselves going back to square one. Does that happen to you? That is, if it does happen.
No, I left square one a long, long time ago, and I don't return to square one. Spirituality has been a part of my life since I was a child, and that's how my being started developing. Trying to understand what makes me think the way that I do, what makes me feel the way that I do, either good or bad or whatever, but to have that understanding. And so that has been part of my life. So I have been teaching for, more than 40 years, really, doing spiritual retreats all over the world for the past 25 or 30 years. And to me, what is really the most important thing is to have a practice that sustains you. That is, to me, the key. In what I teach, there are three elements that I call the 3 Ds, the letter D, and those are discipline, dedication, and devotion. Discipline is, no matter what, I'm going to sit today to do my practice, whatever practice you choose it to be. So that is the discipline, that no matter what, you're going to sit and do it. Dedication is dedication to the practice that you're going to do, whether it's based on any spiritual technique that I have learned. That is the dedication. So I have the discipline, and I dedicate this amount of time, 1 hour, 1.5 hours a day, whatever it is, in the morning to do my practice. And then, so that's discipline, dedication, and devotion is faith, and faith in yourself that you will be able to accomplish whatever it is that you want to do. Now, the faith part, when it's connected with the Dharma, and the Dharma are the sacred teachings, when that is connected with the Dharma, then everything begins to change gradually to move what you are learning, what the person is learning, from intellectual understanding to an emotional understanding that creates a permanent imprint in the mind. So, when crazy things happen in my life. For example, 7.5 years ago, I was involved in a very crazy auto accident, but I was standing outside of my car. 2 cars got in an accident behind me, and then the bumper of one of the cars came and shattered my leg. My right leg just exploded, little bones coming out of the leg and stuff like that. And to my wonderful surprise, instead of my mind, because it's so trained to be in the sacred space, instead of feeling sorry for myself, my car has been destroyed, my leg is broken, the chattering of the mind that takes you to negative spaces. Instead of that, my mind immediately clicked or switched to devotional mantras. And mantras are something that I practice every single day, and I've been practicing mantras for more than 50 years in my life. So I have created a mental condition that the moment the negative appears, instead of allowing my energy to flow with that stream of negativity or an accident or feeling sorry or whatever, my mind immediately switches to the sacred, and I start chanting mantras, So that is a condition that I have been able to create in my life. A couple of years ago, I had an incident in which a person that I was working with turned completely against me and started saying very negative things about me online and sending emails to hundreds of people. And, the tendency could be to get angry because of the actions of another, especially of this nature that are so negative, But instead, again, it's just mind training that I don't have anger in my life, first of all. It has been completely eliminated. And where my mind goes immediately based on the actions of somebody else is to compassion. So instead of, I'm angry because you said this, you said that, I go to compassion and I ask myself the question, I wonder what kind of pain or suffering this person is going through in his or her life that is making them spew so many negative things that have to come out of within themselves. That's why when people say certain things and then they go, oops, I didn't mean it. No, I'm sorry, you did mean it. So take the responsibility of owning whatever you say and then learn through sacred teachings how to start replacing that way of thinking, which is a negative thinking, and words carry a very powerful impact in the mind and the psyche of individuals that can create decades of damage, in the mind of someone. Let's say if someone's father was very strict and there's you, the child, doing your arithmetic and you're not that good at adding the numbers, and your father comes and looks and goes, no, 2 + 2 + 2 is 6, not 7. And then bangs you behind the head and tells you, what's the matter with you? Are you stupid? A statement like that from a person of authority like your father creates a permanent imprint in the mind and the psyche of the individual until later on, if we explore it, we can then realize that it was not us, that we are very good at art, for example, but not at numbers. But it was whatever energy your father, that individual, could be a teacher, anyone, carries within themselves that is put on top on you, on your psyche. And that 10, 15-second statement creates a permanent imprint in the mind of someone that can last for a lifetime. So it's about knowing how the mind operates, knowing that what anyone else gives you, it doesn't belong to you, so it belongs to the person that is giving it to you. But we have the tendency to take possession of something that doesn't belong to us, first of all, and we love to take possession of the negative and not so much the positive. Now, we can clearly see this in individuals that suffer at the mental or emotional level for something that happened 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, okay? 20 years ago, this is what happened in my life, and because of that, I am in pain and suffering. Now there's 30 years later and we're still dealing with the same, but an imprint of happiness, that everyone has experienced. What happens? We just simply let it go. Yeah. So we attach to the negative and we don't let go of the positive. So what I'm trying to say here is that we all have the ability to cultivate within ourselves the direction of the energy that we use to create or manifest our lives. And the choice is either a negative choice, which is to get angry, to get unhappy, to be jealous, to be attached, or possessive to a certain thing or individual, and not to feed the other one, which is the positive. Now, it does take far more effort to cultivate the positive than the negative. It's so much easier to waste time in social media, is to get lost on YouTube and end up looking at, I don't know what, snakes and scorpions, instead of taking that time to enter deep meditation, deep sacred space, and to explore the nature of our mind, the nature of our beliefs, which is what these two are creating the life and the reality that we are living.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, there are so many things that you said right now, especially the first one that really caught my attention was that you have created a mental condition. We all are talking about mental health, mental conditions, but I think this is something very new and unique. It's the other side of the spectrum. Hey, if this is what our minds can create, we can train ourselves and create a mental condition that actually works in our favor. So that was absolutely mind-blowing for me. It was something absolutely new. And then one other thing that I absolutely agree with is taking ownership, responsibility of whatever we do, because I think we have got into this loop of always finding a reason to shy away from our karmas, from whatever we've done. Oh, I am like this because this is what happened to me in my childhood. Oh, I am like this because this person did this to me. We are not, as you rightly said, that, something that happened 30 years ago, we are still talking about it. Like, where is our growth? Of course, it exists. It's very difficult. But I think what you pointed out, like creating that mental condition, and I think that's what we all need to work towards. And I think even the fact you talked about the power of words, I think I personally deal with this particular issue. When I get angry, I really do not know what to say, how to say. And as there are times when I actually say, oh, but I didn't mean it. And right now, when you said it, no, but you meant it. I could just feel it, because this is who I am. I will say things and I will be like, oh, but I didn't mean it. But I 100% meant it in that moment. But later on, I regret it. And, then I live in guilt that, oh my God, why did I say this to this person? So, as you said, that we can create the positive patterns as well, like in a way. I'm just using the word pattern. You haven't used it, but there was something that we really wanted to understand from you, is that we tend to get into these patterns, emotional patterns. And, my first question to you was getting back to square one, and you said you don't. So you've already broken up from that pattern that pulls you down. But there are so many of us, billions of us, and I'm not sure if in your life as well, that do you find yourself getting into some sort of emotional patterns that we create, like a loop? And I mean, you have already answered it somewhere. I've actually found that answer, but I would still want you to elaborate that how can one break from those patterns? And if you can go deeper and tell us, why do we create certain patterns? Why do they exist?
Well, they exist because we are wired like that, I mean, we're wired to, this is the planet of emotions. So all of our life experience is created by the emotions that we are able to generate. So we go back to examples that are learned. We are, in a way, the sum total of what our family history has been. So we tend to inherit from our parents inherit from their parents, and their parents from their parents. So, we can go back 3, 4, 5 generations, and we look at the condition of life, when our great-grandparents or great-great-great-grandparents were around, and many times the difficulties that they experienced in their lives. So we have been inheriting mental patterns and belief systems that gives us the initial imprint in life. So it's as if our parents give us a script, and, this is the script, this is the beliefs that we have, this is the culture that we belong, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. So everything is written down, so to speak, in this exchange. It's not that they actually give us a paper script, and then we begin to nurture those beliefs, therefore inheriting in a certain way the mental condition that doesn't belong to us. It belongs to our parents, until the moment that something happens in life and we wake up, either karma from a previous life, or positive karma that the individual is able to generate in this life. Whatever it may be, there's a moment of opportunity in which, we walk into the train station, and the moment of opportunity is to recognize when the train is there, and we get in the train, and then we begin the ride, or we simply stay numb, because of lack of faith, lack of conviction, or people that absolutely love to be in the space of woundology. And that's a word that I use, people that just love to be wounded all the time. So therefore, they get far more sympathy. They get far more from life, so to speak, in a negative way, because they are like energy vampires that come and they start sucking your energy. So they don't get on the train. To them, it's more important to be at the train station where a whole lot of people gather. And when they display their wounds, the poor me attitude, then there's always one or two or three other persons that come and they get together and they start, leaking each other's wounds. Oh, yes, poor you. That happened to me as well. And so they get more from that than to being empowered, jumping on that train and saying, no matter what, I know that this ride is going to be for my highest good. I know that I have to sacrifice going to the bar or getting together with negative friends and to party till 3 or 4 in the morning or whatever it may be, and to give that time to the investigation, the sincere investigation of our belief systems and the condition of our mind. So when we enter into a space of keen investigation, and if we have a technique or a tool that can help us to understand that, the method, then we begin to see results. Now, unfortunately, in today's societies, mostly all over the world, people want quick results. They just want, a quick result. And if they don't achieve that, the goal of the quick result, they're going to get frustrated. They're going to think this doesn't work, etc. But if there is a mental pattern that has been part of someone's life for 10, 20, 30, 50 years or longer than that, and that pattern has certain consequences in the way that we express ourselves to life, then it's going to get to a point in which we have to recognize that what we have to do is to sit and meditate on it. Now, a lot of teachers tell you that the primary goal of meditation is to get to an empty mind, that complete, the bliss of emptiness. That's true. Well, good luck getting there. And I almost challenge anyone, that they can sit to meditate, and within the first 3 or 4 minutes, they can just go to emptiness. That will be fantastic. But one of the most significant and important meditations that, in this case, the Buddha taught us is analytical meditation. That's number one. So what that means is that you're not going to sit to meditate and try to go to emptiness. How can anyone get to emptiness if their mind and their emotions are full with negativity, with worries, concerns, with lack of forgiveness, which is a big one, with anger, with jealousy, with greed, blah, 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 blah. All that, the wounds from the past, that I was molested, he did this to me, she's doing this to me right now. All of this shattering of the mind is present. And how can anyone arrive at a point of emptiness, bliss in meditation, if your mind is filled with like 1,000 monkeys, just going blah, 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 blah. So to analyze negative emotions in meditation is really the most important aspect of meditation. And what we try to do is to go from the present to the past, not from the past to the present. So what is the emotion that needs to be cleared? Well, you mentioned anger a little bit ago. Well, anger is one of the most predominant negative emotions that exist in the world. We see it everywhere. Here in the United States, anger is horrendous. People are dissatisfied, polarized one end to the other, and we see it in social media. We see it everywhere. So how can we be at a space of inner peace if that is a condition, like a sickness, so to speak, that is within ourselves? So we sit down and we say, okay, this is the energy that I'm going to be working with, anger. How does it impact my life? And then you start looking within yourself, and then you start looking as to how this energy, this anger, impacts, number one, your brain. And if I had the slides right now to show you that I show in my classes, I would show them to you. The brain, these are actual photographs of the brain when the brain is under severe stress or depression. And when the brain is in anger, what happens to the neurons and the neurotransmitters in the brain, and how that impacts in a drastic way our life, And then, but we also see in these slides when light, love, enters the brain in meditation, we generate that emotion in the same way that we can sit here and generate the emotion of anger, okay? Because everyone has a point of reference to what that feels like, either small or big, but everyone does. But at the same time, everyone has a point of reference to what love feels like, So when we sit, then we sit with that love to do the investigation. And we start looking as to how does anger impact my life, my physical body, my mind, my life in general, how others perceive me as an individual, when I am expressing myself in this way. Now, by me expressing myself this way, what happens? What is the emotional impact of my actions in the life of another one? So we start investigating all of these things. And once we have a clear picture, and maybe that it takes 3, 4, 5, 10 sittings, 20 sittings to understand it, or to arrive from the full understanding of what we see as to how anger affects and impacts our life, to the realization that we can start changing that pattern. In other words, what we want to do is go from the present to the past to the moment of the inception of the root cause of that pattern. So when we planted that seed of anger in our consciousness, in our mind, that may be from this life or a previous life, it doesn't make any difference. But by getting to that point, then instead of being a forest full of trees, like angry trees all over, they're just little sprouts, or one little sprout that if we go back then, we can easily eliminate it and eliminate that energy, that emotion of anger that takes over mind, body, and spirit. So that is the most important thing, to do, to be able to get to the point of understanding how we hold on to patterns. Another thing is that we, as a whole, in the humans, have the tendency to attach. We attach ourselves to others. We attach ourselves to certain needs and desires. And those attachments, the only thing that they do is they bring us to suffering. So the understanding of attachment, including attachment to a condition, to a mental condition, either sadness or loneliness or anger or jealousy or whatever, because just like in the example that I gave you earlier, individuals are able to squeeze out of that attachment the sympathy that they can get out of others, So, all of this is work. Spirituality is not a quick fix. Spirituality is the full awareness that there are parts of ourselves that perhaps need to be destroyed, and once that destruction of that negative part of the self, the personalities the individual have, each one of us has more than one personality until we arrive at a moment that we can review all of these other personalities that perhaps are not serving us, or like removing masks. And then to be able to arrive at a point in which we are true to ourselves in every single possible way, that we're not wearing masks, that we're not having different personalities. And all of that takes work. All of that, if we are, makes no difference, 20, 30, 50, 75 years old, makes absolutely no difference. This is your creation. Yes, our parents gave us the initial script to be this way because that's how they were, and they learned that from your grandparents and et cetera, et cetera. But it gets to a moment in life in which we stop. And I call it being in a theatrical play, and you are the main actor of the play. And there are different actors or groups that you play with, there's different personalities. So you have the theatrical play that you're living with your family, then with your lover, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, with your co-workers, with your social club. All of these are different aspects of the selves. So let's just talk about family, because that is just the most juicy one, right? So, so when we are able to, we are the main actors of this play, but we're also the director. So
Right.
when we're able to separate ourselves from the play and go to the witness seat, then it's like we sit back in the director's chair. Once we're in the director's chair, we can easily see that, this is the script that our parents gave us. And then we start looking as to how each of these individuals playing in that play is behaving. And if you realize this is not for me anymore, even though I have to fight and kick against my cultural beliefs, which are very, very strong in most cultures.
Yeah.
No matter what, I will step out of this. I will kick myself out, looking for the freedom that is going to allow me to explore my spirituality, my way of being in a deep and intimate way. So then we push that aside, and then we start doing our practice. We start doing that practice, not from the head, but from the heart. And then little by little, the more we investigate, the keen investigation of the condition of our mind and our belief systems, then we start finding that many of these beliefs are antiquated. They don't serve us in our lives today.
Sorry, your voice was breaking. What did you say? Some of the beliefs are what? Can you just repeat that?
They don't serve us anymore. They're antiquated. They're all beliefs. So when we have the realization of that, then we can let them go. But the psyche doesn't tolerate imbalances. So we have to replace one belief from another one. So if you believe that anger is harmful, and you remove that, then what is the opposite of anger for you? And it can be different things for different people. But let's just say that anger, instead of anger, is joy. So by eliminating anger and cultivating joy, then little by little, that joy is going to start taking over and over and over. But this is, I've been doing spiritual work for 60 years. So it gets to a point in which you imprint, you let go of the old stuff, and you create new imprints that will become alive in life. So the new reaction, is not when the condition appears, when someone cuts in front of you and they throw their fist at you, instead of you reacting in a negative way, hey, what's the matter with that person? And you're reacting negatively. Instead of that, you sit back and you go to compassion. You say, this person must have a greater need than I do. So please, go, it's okay. So we begin to handle life in a different way. And before I finish this little, see what happens with one question, I can just go. But what I would like to say is that that life is meaningless. People go, just like your faces right now, it's like, what? What is you talking about? Life is meaningless. But that's absolutely right and correct. Life is completely and totally meaningless. It is us, the ones that give meaning to life, and not the other way around. So how do you want to experience life? It's up to you, because you are the one that give meaning to life and not the other way around. What is the external conditions are just simply conditions like culture, family, friends, etc., that can be easily replaced if that is the need that we have in our lives. We can simply, if we let go of our family, for example, because they are toxic, okay, and we enter into a spiritual life and we start cultivating that, and you start removing anger and you start becoming more joyous, and that begins to show, these friends and this family are going to be looking at you, are going to go, wait a minute, something is going on here with my daughter, my son, my friend, what are you doing? Instead of being like this, you have a smile on your face all the time, and you go, I'm not attached. Life is beautiful. Wow, the joy of living. Then people that you fire, people that you let go of, are going to pay attention. And many, many, many times has happened in my life, but into the life of hundreds of my students, that individual that you let go of is going to come back and is going to say, hey, what are you doing? You are different. What is going on? And that's an open door for you to share freely your spirituality, for you to share freely, this is what I'm doing. I'm taking this direction, I'm taking that direction. And then it's because of you and because of the willingness that you have and the courage that you have to explore yourself and to change all these negative patterns, that you will give others permission to do the same.
Wow.
Wow.
That was a mind-blowing speech. Itself is enough.
Yeah, I know it's actually a lot to process. But while you were speaking, there was something I'm curious about to know. You have been on the spiritual journey for 60 years that you mentioned. Now, does there come a point where you feel what more is left to learn? What more is left to discover? Have you come to that point? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but does that happen where you feel there's nothing more to know? This is it. As you said, life is meaningless. That's it, period. There's nothing else to know. There's nothing else to learn. Do you get to that point? That's number one. Number two, if not, like, what is the latest new thing that you have learned? Because you've been on this journey for so long. So what is that something really fresh that you've learned about the entire spiritual process or about yourself?
What was the first question?
I'm just curious. Yeah. Have you ever come to a point where you felt that this is it, there's no more learning left?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, there is so much to discover in life, to learn from life. I love to be deeply and intimately connected to nature, for example. And how can I possibly learn or know everything about nature? Many times I go and lay myself down on the grass. I'm just looking down and I see the little bugs, the way they move, and a little jump in a little flower. And I'm learning from nature. So no, I have never come across a time in my life in which I say, I know it all. That would be tremendous amount of ego. And it will, and if I ever say that, it will be a perfect moment for me to completely stop and to know that there is more that I need to learn about myself that I have not already discovered. So yeah. What I have, I love to read sacred texts. People tell me, have you read the book from this person and that person? There's modern writers, like me, people like me. And my answer is no, I don't. They ask me about just different people that are famous, I guess. I said, no, I don't read their books. What I read is Buddhist text. That is, when I was very young, 17 years old, I grew up Catholic, in Mexico City. So, I went to the different priests, asking questions because I needed to understand, certain aspects of the religion. And they said, no, we don't know. Go to this other person, go to this other priest. And it's all faith. And I'm going like, no, I'm sorry. No, that's not enough for me. I have to have the understanding so I can have faith. But without it, it's not going to happen for me. So I started to jump, from one religion to one philosophy, spirituality to another, trying to discover what I was looking for, which is really, how does my mind work? How does it operate? How does the mind is able to transform into feelings what is happening, or is it feelings that give the condition to the mind? And all these questions that I had as a child, and in my early 20s, I discovered Tibetan Buddhism, and I started reading some of the text, and it was like a big light bulb for me. It's like, wow. But there's a little book, what can be big book, but a little book is called The Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths are the foundation of Buddhism. These are the teachings of the Buddha. And I have been reading this book for, I don't know, 25 years or whatever. And I carry it in my carry-on all over the world when I travel, and I'm reading this and reading this. And finally, about 2 years ago, or a year ago, I was in France with my friends at their house. I'm in the garden sitting, reading this book. And suddenly a paragraph that I have not fully understood, and I read it for 20 years, the conditions were so right. I guess I had cleared enough of my own mind that I was able to understand this one paragraph. And when I did, I became like an intoxicated, crazy man. I was dancing in the garden, and my friend Marina was looking at me going like, what in the world possessed him? Is that moment of an enlightened activity that just made my mind explode to have deeper understanding of what I was looking at. And for me, I think that this past 2 years have had and not because of the pandemic or the virus or anything like that. It's completely separate. I mentioned a little while ago the difficulties from an ex-partner, business partner, and what my life was reduced to is to feel compassion at a level, and forgiveness, compassion and forgiveness at a level that I have never experienced ever before in my life. So this individual came with all these nasty comments and energy only to give me an opportunity. And for that, I am eternally grateful to be able to see my emotional reaction and to see how my emotional reaction was completely immersed in love, compassion, and forgiveness.
Wow.
So, that is just something that I can share with you right now.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I hope whenever we come across certain situations, maybe not as strong as what you went through, but, even in lines of it, and we too choose compassion, forgiveness, and understanding as to why. Just the other day I was reading, it said that why did this happen to me? Instead of this, you should ask, why did this happen for me? Because it's not happening to you, but it is happening for a reason, So that was something that I read and I absolutely liked. And it is so much in line with what you are sharing right now. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think our conversation can just go on and on for the entire day, but without...
I would like to say also, just very quickly, why questions don't have real answers. So, by asking, why did this happen to me? Why, you're not going to get a clear and definitive answer. We can go why to infinity,
True.
So to me, why doesn't work, but what works is where, when, how, and whom. Then you're going to get the real answers, instead of why. Why? Well, because. Just because.
Yeah.
So when we replace that why, and maybe I don't know, contact the author and and share this, to fully realize that why questions don't have your real answers. You want to get real answers, then ask where, when, how, and whom, and then you will be able to get deeper into the understanding of whatever it is that you're exploring and get to real ansers.
Well, that's a different perspective and something new that I absolutely
am
learning with the list of things that you have already shared.
I'm sure people will come with their notes.
Yeah, I'm already making mental notes, and I'm definitely going to watch this conversation again and again, and I'm sure it's going to, how it happened with you to the book, I just said that there's so much that you read and you experience, so whatever, you're like, oh, I've read this book, but then it speaks to you in a different way every time you read it, because you are no longer the same person. You have changed. Maybe back in the days you understood it more, and today you don't, because your energies are different, your mindset is different. So I absolutely agree to your experience, and I'm so sure that what we're discussing today, the way I'm understanding it right now, maybe 10 years down the line when I re-listen to this, I'm definitely going to understand a lot more from this. And I hope, that's my journey towards understanding deeper, better, rather than not understanding at all.
Yeah, and I would like to share my experience as well, because I'm from a Muslim background, and I started reading the Quran myself. And very lately, I was discussing with my friend Jagruti about her religion, about Hinduism. And I was last week with another friend, we were talking about Buddhism. And as you said, the more I grow up, the more how can I say, I heal myself. The more I realize that all these religions have something something in common, common message that I keep on discovering over the time. So what you just said makes so much sense to me. There's only one main message in all these sacred holy books. That is, as you said, forgiveness, compassion, and releasing of expectation.
And love.
And love, yes.
And love.
How
can I forget that?
Love is the most important one.
What is also important to me is it's okay to read. It's great to read, but reading is only going to give most readers intellectual understanding. And intellectual understanding is not going to create real changes. When we apply whatever it is that we are reading, if we feel that it resonates truth, for us, then when we're capable of passing that intellectual understanding through our emotional body, then eventually that intellectual understanding is going to turn into wisdom. So it's not enough to read, Read is just going to give us that intellectual understanding. But what is the emotional component that must be applied for this to truly take root in our mind? And that in Buddhism is one of the main things, including when we chant mantras. And mantras is something that they are number one in my life and my teachings. People come to my retreats or my classes every single morning. We do mantras and meditation. And so what people have to understand is that by connecting or plugging into sacred energy, the sacred energy of the mantras, that is going to create a flow, of energy that is going to start removing the layers that we have around us. And the ultimate is that the sacred words, with the right understanding of the mantra or the teaching in general, the goal is for that to take root in our minds, just like seeds that are planted. If those seeds don't take root because the ground is not fertile, then nothing is going to happen. So the ground is the mind. The teachings are the dharma, are the seeds. So when we plant the seeds and we fertilize our mind, we cultivate our mind with sacred energy, then what we are asking for, or what we want, is for this teaching to take root in our minds. And once that it takes root, then it's going to start growing. And then once it grows, then that teaching is going to create a layer of protection around you, is going to create a new way of behaving and understanding others, to relate with kindness, with love and forgiveness and compassion, to others, instead of being a reactive individual. So that is, reading is just the information. And if it's good information, great, just wonderful. Then you put that in your mind, and then what is the emotional component that needs to be added? And then we start seeing then we start seeing practical results.
Yeah, I think we normally just stop at the first level. We read and then we do nothing with it. There's so much information that we have, and there's so much good information that we have. Like, as she was mentioning, so I come from the Vedic philosophy, and in the Bhagavad Gita, there are like 700 shlokas. So if you see, like, you can just pick one mantra, one word, one teaching, and you could transform your entire lives. Like, you don't need to know the entire one, but if you do, that's great. But the emphasis on implementing what you've learned, absorbing what you've learned, and living a life based on it. If you see Mahatma Gandhi, he just took ahimsa and satya, the truth and non-violence, these two learnings from the Holy Bhagavad Gita, and he became the father of the nation. He transformed so many lives. So similarly, as to what you're saying is, like, we have to have those seeds sowed and give it a soil, a ground to grow, to flourish in the way it is meant to be. Yeah.
I wrote an article. I dissected the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, some years ago, and I wrote an article. Maybe go to my website if you like. It's there.
I will, definitely. I'm so interested.
We'll simplify things a little bit.
That's great. I'd love to read it. And I'm sure it'll give me a lot more perspective from your side. There's something that you have been into that is Akashic records. And that's something Shaznan has introduced me to. So, I know we've already had a really long conversation, but if you could, in layman's language, in short, try and explain to me, because I have not deep dived into that concept, because I really wanted to hear it from you, firsthand. And even for all those who are wondering what is Akashic records or recording, as it is said. So if you can just in layman terms explain it and how you got into it, like what was the reason that, okay, let me not ask any why here, but how did you get introduced to it? And do you feel that it has transformed you? Like, in what way has it transformed you? I know it's like clubbing too many things, but if you could just, in short and in an easy way, explain to us.
In short.
Actually, no.
In short, the Akashic records. The Akashic records are the progression of our soul's evolution from the moment of our soul's inception to the present moment.
Oh,
so that is not enough to understand what the Akashic records are. Let's talk about Akasha without records, just Akasha. Akasha is mentioned in every single sacred scripture from around the world. All cultures, all religions mention Akasha in different ways. Now, Akasha is a field that is present everywhere in the entire universe. In 2014, there was a scientific symposium in Milan, Italy, headed by Professor Irving Laszlo, and the scientists, quantum physicists, etc., say that they finally had the scientific proof of this substance that is present everywhere in the universe, that moves at a very, very slow speed from past to present and to the future at 0.00001 speed or whatever. And that the primary function of this energetic field that is present everywhere, within and without, is to record information of any living organism. And every living and everything is alive. Everything is giving an output of an energy or a frequency. So this field that is present right here, right now, but if you're not capable of feeling it or perceiving it, is because you're not fine-tuned to that energy. Maybe you're tuned into a radio station that is 88.9 and the Akasha frequency is at 100.9. So you're not connecting directly. You're not able to perceive it, but doesn't mean that it's not there. It is there. Now, what they said, the scientists, is that there has been a group of individuals for centuries that have been able to tap or connect or jump into this energy and, like a pool, navigate, swim this way and that way to explore what is recorded within it. Okay? So that is a big picture of Akasha. And some of these individuals are visionaries, mystics, some psychics, not everyone, some psychics, individuals like Edgar Cayce, Nostradamus, Madame Blavatsky, so many other individuals that have had the mental capacity to jump into this field and see what is there. Now, so that is the big picture of what Akasha is. Then we can reduce that down to planet Earth, okay? And we have planet Earth giving constantly an output of energy. So the Akasha is recording the output of energy of the Earth. So they are the Earth's Akashic records. And then we reduce it one more time to cultures. The Indian culture, the Middle Eastern culture, Latin culture, every culture has their own uniqueness, you know, and there's that karma, so to speak, that cultural karma within that. Well, that culture and that output of energy is creating the Akashic records of that culture. Now we reduce it one more time to our families. And that's when it's getting interesting, right? Because of all the family dynamics, all the skeletons in the closet and all of that stuff. So then there's the family and the dynamics that come from one life to the next, to the next, to this one, that is creating the Akashic records of that family, okay? And then we reduce it one more time to us, okay? And now with every action, every interaction, with every word, with every thought, because this vibration is energy, we are imprinting the Akashic fields with our personal actions. And that in turn is believed to be our book of life, you know, the imprint that we give life of our soul's evolution from the moment of its inception to the present moment, okay? So we are writing constantly on this book, you know, our book of life. And what the Akashic records help us do is to fine tune the frequency of our mind, to start developing new bundles of neurons and neurotransmitters that will accommodate our ability to go from 88.9 to 100.2, whatever it is, and be able then to connect with the energy of Akasha by opening our own Akashic records, explore what is written in there for us to be able to enhance what works and to work in and eliminate and replace what doesn't work. So that is the Akashic records. So from the point of the Akashic records, we can go back to that witness seat, to that theater, and we can see the different plays. So here's the family dynamics. Okay, with our Akashic records open, we remove ourselves from that, and we sit in the witness seat and the director's chair to start observing and seeing how we are behaving and how everyone else is behaving within that karmic group. And then through the guidance that we receive from the Akashic records, then we can start changing the patterns and the dynamics between us and other individuals, therefore bringing healing.
Right.
Another thing that is, to me, the most magical about the Akashic records is that working with the Akashic records is not working in a mental linear way. So traditional therapy wants to take you from point A to point B, from point A to point B here away, okay? But all of this space, all of it is the space of Akasha. So everything is imprinted on this piece of paper. So by being in the space of Akasha, what we can do is take point A and point B and bend it and put together A and B. So with Akashic records, we actually learn how to bend time and to go from the present to the past. What I was telling you earlier, just let's say that someone is a bully, you know, someone that is just really a macho little boy or little girl, and you go to school and you see another child with a better looking sandwich than yours. So you beat that person up, you know, to take that sandwich away. That's a negative imprint in your book of life. right? Is negative karma. Beating somebody else and take their sandwich is not a good action. So what is the emotional imprint that is left within yourself because of this action? And what is the emotional imprint that you left behind in the life of that other child by beating him up and taking his sandwich? Anger, resentment, insecurity, feeling that is not, that self-worth is down to zero, anything like that, right? So these are the actions. Now, actions can never be eliminated or erased. The fact that someone went and punched somebody else, that can never be replaced. But the emotional imprint, that can be replaced. And that's when this comes into play. This is you in the now. This is you in the past. Okay? So this is what we need to clear, because we have the consciousness that we harmed somebody else and we want to ask for forgiveness. So this could have happened 20, 30, 40 years ago. Makes no difference. In the Akashic fields, imagine something that happened yesterday or the day before is only right here, and something that happened 10 years ago is only right here. So it's not that far from because the field moves so slow. So these are the energetic imprints. So what we can do is, from the present moment, go to the past by bending time, and is the you in the now with the consciousness that you have, with the help of the Akashic records, that is going to go and dialogue with the child that you beat up back then and ask for forgiveness. So the action can never be replaced, but the energetic imprint with consciousness is what is completely erased and eliminated. So I have been doing spiritual work all of my life, and I have never found a technique that is as beautiful as the Akashic records to be able to clean past karma.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So my question, Mr. Ernesto, is you're saying that the purpose of accessing to the Akashic record is to make peace with our past action, like to address those emotional imprints, as you said?
But that's just only one of many things. The Akashic records come to enhance what you already know. If you are an architect, a musician, an artist, or anything at all, in anything, a housewife, a cook, anything, the Akashic records can help you to get greater inspiration and to explore areas of your profession or that thing that you want to perfect, music or whatever, and just enhance it in a beautiful way. But at the same time, the Akashic records are something, a tool that can come and help you to clean up your karma.
Yeah, you said in your book that it's for you one of the most powerful healing modality that you've discovered, and it's a space of pure unconditional love. And I would love you to elaborate on that and to explain to our audience, how is that?
Well, you asked me just a moment ago, how does the Akashic record have impacted my life, right? Yeah. They have changed my life completely. About 20, I forget, I think about 24 years ago or something, there was a hurricane that came through Miami and completely wiped me out. I had 3 businesses, jewelry stores with crystals and visionary art and things like that, destroyed. Before that, I was burglarized. So, someone gone to my apartment, broke into my safe, took a lot of money and jewelry that I was going to have for my stores. Before that, my mother died, 2 weeks before. So a very dark period, in my life. So dark that after the hurricane, my house was destroyed and I was living in my car. I lived in my car for two weeks, wondering, wow, now what? Everything is gone. And so we can say that it was the experience of the dark night of the soul, or being inside of this hall where there's absolutely no light, is complete and total darkness. But in the complete and total darkness, there was always a little dot of light. And that's where my focus went, to that dot of light. And that dot of light was the guidance of the Akashic records as to how to start coming out. Know why this happened to me. It's already there. It doesn't matter why this happened, karma, whatever, the karma of the city where I live in, or whatever it may be, makes no difference. It's already there. So now is, what are the proper steps that I need to take to bring myself out of this situation? And the guidance was very clear and specific, like a recipe, and because I believe, I simply follow the recipe, and as I following the recipe, my life started unfolding and changing and unfolding and changing to the way that I live my life now over the past, many years, living a life of ease and grace and joy. And, to me, the Akashic Records are, I have learned so many tools over my lifetime. I've taken dozens of workshops, probably spent more than $500,000 truly in different retreats and classes that I've taken for many years. And all of that is great, just gives me a lot of information and all that. But if you were to ask me, or God was to ask me, you can only have one tool out of everything that you know and you have done and you have learned, what would that be? And without a doubt would be the Akashic Records, because with that, I already know that by believing and trusting, I can change my life.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to share my small experience with the Akasha too before ending this amazing conversation. I just had 2 experiences, so I didn't go myself, but I went to someone who could read it for me. And I must say that for the first time of my life, I was able to forgive my parents because I understood the reason why I had these parents, so I could address those emotions. So I must say that whatever you said, I experienced it, and it's very, very powerful. So yes, I would invite everyone to learn about Akasha and to learn to go themselves, because as you said, it's something that is accessible to all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great that you can go and have a reading with somebody else. That's part of the level 2 class that I teach. Out of the 4 levels of the Akashic Records is how to access the records of others. And it's great, but nothing replaces you knowing how to open your own Akashic Records and receive that direct guidance yourself.
That's amazing. That's a lot for every one of us to process and to probably go back to again and again. This has been amazing. I wish we could just carry on this conversation for longer, but I think we all need to sit back, absorb, replay everything again and again. But thank you so much, Ernesto. This was amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah. If there is anything as a sign off you would like to say to everybody, just like a message, a statement, anything that you would like to say to us and to everybody who's listening, what would it be?
I would say have the courage to go deep within and explore. Have the courage to bring out from the shadows any darkness that might be there. And the moment that darkness comes to the light, it will be dissolved. Develop a sincere spiritual practice, whatever that may be for you. And don't allow the condition of the world, which is so crazy right now, to impact you in a negative way. But know that you are significant enough to impact the world in a positive way.
Very true.
That's amazing.
That's beautiful. Thank you for all these teachings.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's priceless.
Thank you, ladies, for giving me the opportunity to share with you.
Thank you. I wish I will build that courage to go deeper. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And this was absolutely amazing. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If it has inspired you even slightly, then please like, share, and comment. See you in the next one. Until then, remember, our time is limited. Let's make the most of it. Keep watching You Are Human on YouTube and listen to these amazing conversations on Spotify and other audio platforms.